Good morning, grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender at Blender HD, if you want to follow me on Twitter. And this is the show where we'll look at yesterday's slate. We had a 15-game slate yesterday. Take a look at results DB, go over some things, and then see what's going on today. Maybe we'll build some lineups for the early slate today. We got a slate at 10, 12, 35. Of course, it includes games that are 4 hours later that we're not going to have the official, confirmed starting lineups for. But we'll build some lineups. I think I'm going to play 4 lineups in the early slate, mostly smaller field GPPs, and we'll see what we get to, right? And those will be the lineups that I play, right? So you see, in real time, this is what we put together. Obviously, there may be some late swaps there because who knows what some of we got when's the Coors game? That game is 310. We're gonna have to confirm lineups to that as a 14 total. Look at these totals, right? Right. We're not gonna Mets Giants. I think Blue Jays Nationals are on that slate. Like, when are we ever at 405? Is there weather in that game? Let's see. Is there very good chance for rain? Okay. Well, there's a problem in the game that doesn't start for 3.5 hours after lock. Good luck with that. Like, if you get stuck with that line, right? That's the last game. You can't even swap, right? Game's canceled, right? 3:45, you're done. But we'll take a look at that and build some lineups. I see you guys in the YouTube chat. Feel free to hit the thumbs up button. Give me some thumb. Show me your love. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Pug Daddy, Brian C, Suki Singh, Sterling Woods, Matt Mears, Card Fan, Shane Newman, Ryan Edwards, Jerome Lewis, Michael Dompier, Real Life Pitcher, Gabriel Lazaro, Japocalypse. Gabriel Lazaro says, good morning, fellow grinders. Yesterday I entered a 25-cent tournament. I was in second place, and then the Giants happened, and it knocked me all the way down to 26th place. I went from second place to winning $250. Well, that's the way things break. That's what happens, right? It ain't over until it's over. It ain't over until it's over. Just want to point out, Daniel Hutchins is a normal and is a regular in our chat room. I don't know if you don't know, he's Nerdy 10 on Draftkings and Fanduel. I believe that's his Fanduel username. Helps out in the chat a lot. Very good player. Had him yesterday on the Theory of DFS podcast. If you don't know, there's a weekly podcast. It's not just the course is you pay for the course, but I have discussions a lot of times with Eric Beimfor on the show, but he's busy doing his best ball stuff until NFL season starts. So I have like different sharp players. I mean, I've had, Neil Orfield and Corfield 8K. I've had Michael Leone on. I've had, some soccer specialists, some, different sports, different everything. Just talk as 2 sharp players, but he was on yesterday, Nerdy Tenor. They're long podcasts, okay? So don't complain. People, can't believe it's that long. Well, then there's a pause button. You can listen. You don't have to listen all at once. But he goes into his process and his computer software background. And if you listen to how he plays DFS, you'll just quit playing, right? You'll just like, okay, I can't do that. Maybe I should stop playing. But there's still enough bad players that I don't think matters that he's essentially built a robot to play DFS for him. So it'd be very interesting to listen to that and listen to the podcast in general. I mean, if you get stuff out of this pregame show, you'll get stuff out of the podcast as well. But he was on, so I wanted to plug that a little bit. And even people in the chat. New episode with Nerdy Temer was great, loving it, as well as all the others. Alex Hooper's there. Alex Hooper, he does soccer stuff, EPL soccer stuff. You can find it. You go to his Twitter or whatever. He does the Tilt City, right? He does like a review of the EPL stuff. If you play EPL soccer, right? And he's typically most weeks he shows how he loses to me in head-to-heads. But I mean, whatever. That's why I watch, right? right? As I look to see the $5 head-to-head, I go, okay, beat him by 40 points. Let's see what he's going to say on his YouTube show, right? So you could do that if you play EPL as well. Link to the podcast. Go just search. Go to Google. Just go to Google. I don't know. Does Devin have a link? Who cares? Right? It's in iTunes. Go search for Theory of DFS. Type into Google, just Theory of DFS podcast. I mean, you could just do it, right? Why do I have to do all the work for you? It's not that complicated. Just like people that ask, is this guy in the starting lineup? It's like, we have a starting lineups page. Just go to the starting, look. What's the new lineup for this? Go look. We have a lineups page. And it's free. It's free. You don't have to pay for RotoGrinders premium. I mean, some of the stuff you do. And if you want to, you click on the link in the description, get $10 off your first month. Let's see. So Results DB, which is free also. Half this stuff is free. Why should we be charging for this? Yesterday, still lost money yesterday, but I didn't think I did that badly. Okay. Allergies. From a pitching perspective, I mean, as usual on a 15-game slate, we can see here, I put up a whole bunch of sharper players, and you see a lot of sea yellow, right? The higher-owned players are not as exposed. Amazingly enough, the Twins were the chalk last night. The Twins were more chalky than the Padres as a whole. Because they were so cheap. They had like a 5+ total, and their prices are so cheap. So everyone tried to jam them in, and it didn't work. So I was way under on the Twins, way under on the Indians. Because sometimes I call those are the optimizer teams, right? The teams that just they project well from a median perspective, right? We can see that on the stack page. Like for instance, today. Now, obviously, this is a mix of multiple slates. But like this, I always sort by ceiling, because I'm looking to score the most point. I want my stack to the most likelihood of going off for 8+ runs. Okay, they may not be priced well, like the Dodgers are expensive. You're gonna have to pay for it, and especially on slates where people are paying up for pitching, it's gonna be hard to play expensive stats. But I focus on that. But like if you take a look down here, the Indians on like the early slate. Like anytime you see point per dollar, like the point per dollar value, on the other hand, Indians, Pirates, Rockies, although they're in cores. So like to me, if you're building just based on median projections, you're going to get a lot more of the Rockies. Like for this early slate, we're going to see a lot of Indians, Rockies lineups. Obviously, we'll see some Padres also, but Twins, right? It just point per dollar wise, they're good. But if you organize by ceiling, not the NASCAR content, but if you want to go to the NASCAR content, feel free to do so. We organize by ceiling, like the Reds have almost as high ceiling as the Rockies, but they're priced much higher, which means they'll be owned less. You have to go out of your way to get Cincinnati Reds, okay? So we'll see when we build some lineups for this early slate what I'll be doing. But that's the main reason why those teams end up being over-owned. They're not over-owned for their median, they're over-owned for their ceiling. And when you're playing GPP, the Twins scoring 5 runs on a 15-game slate just ain't going to cut it for a large field GPP, right? Maybe you have the one guy that hits 2 home runs in your stack or something if that happens. But for the most part, they're just not going to score enough points. That median, mid-cash, okay. Doesn't mean you play no Twins. It just means that they're over-owned. So looking through all of this, I mean, the popular combination yesterday was Burns and Wainoa. Wainoa only pitched 80 pitches, but I mean, he pitched pretty well. He was only scheduled, like we were only expecting him to go 80 to 90 pitches anyway, but it was cheap enough. So from a pitching perspective, I mean, we even see here, like pitching go all over the place. Like Larriota played a bunch of Eovaldi. I played a whole lot of Dylan Bundy. I mean, I wish he got the last out so he was eligible for like the win or something. But for the most part, I mean, I played a bunch of Taylor Hearn cheap because I'm playing more expensive stacks. Yesterday, my main stacks were Toronto, Cincinnati. What was it? Toronto, Oakland. That sucked. That didn't work. Toronto, Oakland, Cincinnati, San Diego, and Philadelphia. And you go San Diego. They were projected to be the top owned stack, right? They were projected to be. They didn't end up really being. I thought they were underowned, even at their levels, right? I thought like even on a 15-game slate as a stack, because I think like Tatis was owned and Machado was owned, but like as the 5-man, like it probably should have been a little bit more owned than it should be, and than it was. So that's why I played it. Right? I thought the Twins were the over. That's the Twins I barely played. Right? I thought they were way over on, but I think that the Padres, although they were high owned, were not efficiently owned. They had a slightly under, not dramatically under, but slightly under. I thought Manoah was be over owned, and I mean he didn't do well. He was 29% owned. I thought Manoah would be like 24% owned, and I thought he was over owned at 24%. Logan Webb was under owned. I was over on Logan Webb, even though the bat projections didn't project all that well. Wainwright projected better than him, but I decided to play more Webb than Wainwright, and that ended up being the right decision. I played a lot more of Vladimir Gutierrez at 13% ownership. I thought he was underowned. I didn't play any Bassett. I think it was overpriced for his projection. Alcantara, I thought was overpriced for his projection, but at 5% owned, I believe we had him at much higher ownership. If I knew Alcantara was only going to be 5.8% owned, I would have had way more. I ended up with way more of them and thinking I was going under. I think I had Alcantara in 10% of my lineups, thinking that he would be like 18% owned. Right? If I knew he was 5.8% owned, I probably would have had him in like 28% of my lineups. So that's one of those, like, I'm not judging it based on the results. I should have played more Alcantara, right? If he was 5.8% owned and he put up 0, he put up -3, I would be saying the same thing, right? I also had a bunch of Kyle Gibson, Taylor Hearn, Tyler Anderson, right? He was 2%. We had Tyler Anderson projected like 10. And I was over, I thought he was under owned at 10. At 2, he's way under owned. So I played a bunch of him. So like that's how I'm choosing, like, especially the pitching combinations. And then I'm just getting as much. Burns and Wainoa were the 2 best point per dollar projected pitchers, or at least ceiling wise. Maybe Burns wasn't the best point per dollar, but raw points wise. So I'm just like wherever they fit, right? I put a hard cap at like 40%, which is wherever they fit. And of course, I got like 40% of each. We can see here, a lot of even the chalkier pitchers weren't as, we have some people that went over on Manoah, but I mean, it's the usual suspects. Pitching ownership is, some people take chances on cheaper pitching, so they get up for expensive bats. But it's a mix and match. When we take a look at the batters, I mean, why are you playing a 23% on Connor Joe on a 15-game slate? I mean, sure, I played him in Rocky stacks, but I didn't have that many Rocky stacks. But we see here, everyone's under the 23. Tatis is 18%, and people are getting around that. But look at these Twins. Across the board. I mean, a lot of yellow on these Twins. Kepler, a lot of yellow. Still have some. I mean, it's not like they're bad, right? I'd Twins mostly in like 3-man. So I was playing a 5-man stack of another team, like Toronto, and then a 3-man Minnesota with not like up top, no Burns, like those types of lineups. If I had Twins, I can't believe the Rays were way more owned than I thought they would be. I was under on them even I thought they would be like, aggregate like maybe 6-7%. I thought they were over owned for that. And then I end up coming in at what? 11.9 for a Rosarina. Why? I know the Orioles bullpen is almost like Chris Field, right? The Orioles bullpen, you just act as if whoever's playing against the Orioles is playing at Coors, and that's probably good as long as the bullpen comes in. But look, this 11.9%, Zunino 10%, Cruz at 9. Yeah, when Cruz hit that second home run, I'm like, okay, that can't hurt me that much. I'm like, he's 9.5% owned on a 15-game slate. People were playing the Rays. Had I known they would be this owned, I'd have less of them, even though they did well, right? So that's the mentality that you should have. Oh, the Rays did really well. I should have had more of them. It's like, what if I told you that they were going to be 10% owned? They were going to be the 3rd most popular stack on the slate. You go, well, I'm not going to play the Rays at home against John Means. They'd only like had a 4.4 total or something. I mean, like in comparison to some other these, it's not like they projected that well at all. Like you wouldn't be playing them. So who cares that they went off? Who cares? Who cares what happened? Right? I don't even think they made the winning lineup. I don't think the race stack was in the winning lineup. The winning lineup was a mess. Good luck doing this. 2-2-2-2. Good luck. Good luck with that. Long term. That a 2-2-2-2-2 lineup wins. Do we have anything over here? Let's see. Another mess. Right? There weren't that many high scoring teams. And the Nationals, like no one had. My best lineup in the 20 max was a Nationals 5-man stack. Because like, the ownership of that stack was nuts. I mean, I played 135 lineups yesterday. I think I had the Nationals 5-man and I think 3 lineups total. But like Riley Adams, like in my lineup, I had Riley Adams at 0.27% owned at catcher. 30 points, right? Yadiel Hernandez, 0.39% owned. Like the Nationals were nowhere near where the highest ceiling projection or anything like that. But two reasons to play the Nationals. Okay, yesterday, 2 good reasons. One, like no matter what, they're under owned. There's no team that should be less than 1% owned on any slate, right? And they were facing Alek Manoah, who was 29% owned. So you get more relative value from the Nationals than you do other teams, right? So if you had to decide, I'm going to play a little like if you wanted to play the Marlins as that stack, I'm fine with that also. Why? Because Wainoa was 31% owned. Which means because so many people are playing the pitcher, the stack goes under owned because those lineups are not going to contain Marlins players. And when the Marlins do well, 31% of Wainoa lineups start tanking. You get more value against those lineups. So in yesterday's slate, if you were like, I want to play a low-owned cheap team or something like that, do I play the Royals? I don't even know who they were playing yesterday. Do I play the Royals or do I play the Nationals? Like who's pitching against the Royals yesterday? I don't even remember. But no one that was owned, right? Or I don't barely remember who was playing yesterday. It's like the Braves against Alcantara. They're not a cheap team, but if Alcantara was more owned, that's why I played. I played a bunch of Brave stacks because I thought Alcantara would be like 15 to 18% owned. Had I known that Alcantara was only going to be 5% owned, I would have played less Braves. So it's that mentality, especially if you're playing the single entry 3-max type of stuff where the ownership gets even more condensed. So these pitchers become even more owned. So if you want to take a shot, I'm going to play Burns Wainoa. Well, then stack or do something. Play 3 batters, 2 batters, play 1 batter. Play Soto as a one-off against the other chalky pitcher. We're going to show on this early slate. That's how I approach, especially the smaller slates. Of how can I get as much relative value as possible because there aren't as many options on the slate. So I want to have as much of a chance that I could win on a low scoring slate, and low scoring slates typically win the chalk fails. So if I'm not going to play any type of leverage against the chalk, it's going to be harder to win on lower scoring slates. So that's the main reason I had I could have, I ended up with 3 Nationals lineups. And I think I had 3 5-man stacks of the Nationals and like 2 other lineups that had like a 3-man or something like that. I think I had a Padres 5-man with 3. I had Riley Adams, Yadiel Hernandez, and Juan Soto or something in that lineup. Robles in that lineup. And of course, the Padres just, they don't really do much, right? That lineup didn't go as high as it could have gone. But I'm mixing and matching like that. But these teams, they're less than 1% owned. But that's the main reason why in the main GPP you didn't see a national stack up here. Just not many lineups not many people had the Nationals. All right, we take a lot of messes. Whenever you see people that aren't RotoGrinders members and single bullets, that the sharper players probably did not do very well. So he's a Colorado stack. Okay, Burns, Webb, Colorado stack. Nelson Cruz, Ledmus to Diaz with only 2 points. That's a normal lineup. What's Uticau's best lineup? Tampa Bay. Oh, yeah, there you go. Here's the Rays stack. And then with Minnesota, that didn't really get there, right? To me, I view this as a very chalky type of construction. Yeah, sure, Margot and Franco aren't that owned, right? So you get away with it. But I'm less likely to build these types of lineups, especially with Tampa Bay being more owned than I believe, right? Because I look at this lineup and I go, Tampa Bay overowned, Minnesota overowned, Colorado overowned, Burns and Wainoa efficiently or overowned. Like, I'm just never going to make these lineups. Doesn't mean these lineups can't win. I just believe the EV of my lineups are higher than the EV of these lineups. But out of 150 lineups, if you have a couple of these, then it's no big deal, right? Maybe Utica has a bunch of whacked out lineups like I have. Okay, going through the YouTube chat. Metal Alloy 419, thank you. It's the most helpful thing you could listen to if you want to be serious in DFS. Please keep me coming. Well, no, I'm not going to keep you coming. My arms are not that long. Chris Schumacher, hi Jordan. You speak often about aggregating projections. You kind enough to give a brief Excel tutorial on the process of aggregating projections? No, learn Excel. All you have to do is download the projections from multiple sites. They all have the same names. They're typically coming from the DK, like the salaries file that you could download from DK. You know what you do? You could do multiple ways. Obviously, you could use like VLOOKUP or whatever. You can make them match the names and then move the information. If you don't even know how to do that, you know what you do? You sort the column. Sort the column alphabetically. Sort the name column alphabetically in all. Let's say you get projections from this source, this source, this source. Well, typically it has, fantasy points and a name in the name. And typically it's the name that's in Draftkings, right? Because it's part of their optimizer. It's going to have to be sometimes a user ID or something. So you just sort the name A to Z in all those files. And then that projection column, just put in the next column on the other file. So you have one main file. It has 4 columns in it, right? It has 5 columns in it. Okay. It has the name. It has projection source 1, projection source 2, projection source 3, and the average as the 4th column, right? So you just cut and paste. So you cut and paste the names. You cut and paste, sort that entire row of that projection source, the entire row of the other projection source, the entire row of the other projection source, and then you have a little formula: the average equals average, and the three fucking columns, right? And that. And you can cut and paste and just make that column the same for all the cells, right? And then once you paste the first one in, the average is going to be obviously equal to that. And then once you paste the second column in, it's going to be an average of those 2. Once you paste the third column, it's going to be average of those 3, right? Okay, so that average column, now you export that file as a CSV. Make sure if you're uploading to Lineup HQ, like if you upload here, like you want to put you want to make sure that the average column is called F_points, because that's what goes into Lineup HQ. So you can look at the template for RotoGrinders, the Lineup HQ. But all you have to do is change the header of that column. So you have the name column. So you have make the header say name. Make whatever you want the projections in there to be. That is going to show in Lineup HQ to be F points. And there you go, and upload it. There you're done. Now, once the projections update from multiple sources, you're gonna have to do that process again, right? That's laborious to do. Like that is the easiest way to do it if you have no Excel, like you've limited Excel experience. Like just cut and paste and sort the columns and paste the numbers in, right? Now, if you could scrape data and you could make that come in automatically, right? You could use, the lookup functions to match the names to you could do all of that also. But if you don't know how to do that, you could simply just cut and paste into columns. Let me tell you, most of the time that is what I do, because I'm not that good at Excel. When I aggregate projections, because I don't do it that often. A lot of time in MLB, I'm pretty much using the bat. I may look at other projections. I may look and go, wow, this guy projects really well in the bat. What does he look like elsewhere? Oh, okay, it doesn't look that bad elsewhere. Like just the am I crazy type of stuff. Because I could look at something and go, oh, this guy projects really well. He's going to be really owned. And then look, and then like no one else has him that way. So he's not going to be 20% owned. He's going to be 8% owned. So I'm just looking at the aberrations, the weird stuff that I see. Most of the time, I'm not like in football. I'll aggregate because I got a whole week. I mean, it's one Sunday slate, so that's fine. MMA, I'll aggregate. Golf, like there's enough time for that. But you know, when projections change, I don't have the knowledge enough to to get the XML files and parse through and whatever. I know it's probably I probably could learn. I'm pretty sure in about a day or two, I could spend a day or two and learn how to do all that. I just not have put in the time. I've just done it manually. It takes me an extra 5 minutes, but it works for me. Eventually, I'll make it a little bit more efficient. But that's what you could do in Excel. Let's see. Going through the YouTube chat. Chili 13, random question, but just curious. It's perfectly fine. This is the place to ask questions. It's perfectly fine. If you run 150 lineups, how many projection points does your best projected lineup and worst projected lineup differ by? It could be dramatic. Always understand that the more projection that you give up, the more ownership that you have to drop because of it. But you can play lineups that are 40 points off the top projected lineup, and they're going to be a grand total of 12% owned. Like it could be. Understand that the standard deviation of that lineup is going to be absurd. That might quite probably is a plus EV lineup. It just doesn't win anywhere that often. And when it doesn't win, it probably doesn't even cash either. Right? So how many of those lineups are you going to play? Like those are extremely high variance lineups that if you're playing 150 lineups, maybe you do have some of those types of lineups. Right? But you also have some lineups that, are less leveraged, still have first place equity. They're lower EV. They're still profitable, but you may still retain it'll come in 40th place. And like, okay, I got more of my money back. I'm getting more of my money back. If you played 150 lineups that are 40 points off the top projected and 10% owned, which would still be fine. And you play 150 of them, like you're gonna have like 95% of the slates. You're not gonna get any of your money. You get nothing. You're gonna play 150. These are $10 lineups, you put in $1,500. You're gonna get back almost nothing. Most slates, right? Most slates, and then a couple of slates. You win the whole thing, and you win by 40 points. I mean, you could do that. If we played this out 1,000,000 times in a row, and you played 1,000,000 slates, you'd end up with X amount of dollars, and it would be more money than a more balanced set. We talked about it on the Theory of DFS podcast, so just yesterday with Nerdy Town. The difference between a balanced strategy and an exploitative strategy. I tend to play more exploitative, but it doesn't mean I'm playing 100% exploitative. Meaning like yesterday, it's not like I'm like, oh, the Twins are going to be overowned X amount, right? Oh, the Cleveland's going to be overowned. And just completely X out teams that I believe are inefficiently overowned. Oh, Burns should only be 38% owned. He's going to be 46, X amount. Like you're Xing out like all your projection, right? They're the best projections. So like I'll win in the cases where all the chalk fails, right? When all the chalk fails. But if some of the chalk still works, right? So if I have none of it in 150 lineups, like my swings are going to be just like, I'm going to lose I'm going to lose all of my money, most slates. My swings are going to be dramatic. At the end, I'll have more money, but can I survive until then? I don't know. So instead of having these wild swings, I want to have like kind of more of these wild, narrower outcomes. So I don't mind in 150 lineups. Yeah, maybe I'll have one or two twin stacks, but I'll make sure that those twin stacks are not paired with Padres and Corbin Burns, right? I mean, like I'll make sure I want to play a different type of lineup with them. So I can still play. So if the Twins go off, at least I have some outs. But I also don't have a lineup that I'm sharing, the construction type where I'm a 2v2, 1v1 off of like 100 other lineups. Jerry Mann, when using the optimizer to build 100 plus lineups, how do you ensure that you get exposure to all the players from a team while also ensuring that your ownership percentage is within reason? I find hand building best. Yeah, You start handle. I handled for two years before I even touched an optimizer. Once you hand build, and I wasn't just building one lineup, I was building 10, 20 lineups, but I was always doing it by hand. Because then you learn the dynamics of, well, salary here, salary there, position there. Like you could visualize lineups so much easier, and then allow an optimizer to, well, I know that if I pay up here and pay down here, I'm not going to be able to afford this combination, so I know what it ends up turning out being. How many lineups can I make? Because some people use an optimizer and go, I want a lot of this guy and that stack, and go like, well, those are too expensive pitchers and this is an expensive stack. So you're going to get a lot of Frank Schwindel in your line, right? Because these two stacks that you're playing, the first baseman is the one with the worst point per dollar value, right? So it's going to be less likely to appear in your stacks. And the best point per dollar play, cheapo play on the slate is Frank Schwindel from the Cubs. And he's 2,300 and he fills a first base spot. So let me tell you, if you want the two expensive pitchers and all that, you're going to have like 80% Frank Schwindel, right? Do you want that? Do you want it? Okay. Well, if you want it, that's fine. But that's what's going to happen. But you know that if you hand build. Right? Because you hand build, you put the expensive stack and two pitchers together, and you go, okay, I need a first baseman. Oh, Bobby Dalbec, right? Some Frank Schwindel, some 2K first baseman. Colin Moran, if he's still cheap, I don't know. Be something like that. An optimizer is probably going to try to solve the next stacks problem and give you the highest projected lineup. And whoever's 3.5 point per dollar, it's going to be jamming that in. So you have to cap that if you don't want it as much. And then you cap Frank Schwindel at 20%, and you start getting Bobby Dahl back, right? You still get a cheap first baseman, right? You keep on doing that, right? Or you have to realize that in order to play this construction, you're not going to be able to have an expensive first baseman. So you go, okay, maybe instead of having the two chalk pitching, two expensive pitchers together, what if I have one of the expensive and one of the cheaper ones? Well, now you start getting Vlad Guerrero. Now you're able to get Guerrero in the first base spot. If you hand build, you get experience knowing, like, if I do this, I know I'm going to have to do that. The trade-offs on building your lineups. So you could program an optimizer so much better. But Jerry Man says, I've stacked certain teams before only to find out that the optimizer didn't pick the one guy that hit two. No, the optimizer didn't do anything. You didn't pick it. You have to tell it what to do. Okay? Now, the high ceiling players tend to be more expensive. And they, from a median perspective, they may not be the best point per dollar plays. Point per dollar, median. So we take a look at, let's take a look at Toronto, for instance. That's a good example. Like if you were to build Toronto stacks today, most likely you're going to get Dickerson, Grichuk, Hernandez, Kirk, and Espinal, or something like that, right? You're going to get the least amount of Bo Bichette, just based on a point per dollar. It's just trying to jam in median fantasy points. I don't know why this is 6 and 5. Why is this okay? Why the projections change? I have no idea. Oh, I think on a previous slate, I'm like, oh, they're new in the lineup. I had to give them a fake projection. Okay. So look at this. So if you were to build Toronto stacks, 10 Toronto stacks, it's quite possible that you get 0 Bo Bichette. Now he has the highest ceiling. He has a much higher ceiling than some of these other guys, right? He's a better player. He plays shortstop. Maybe you want to play, a scarce position. So you have to tell it if you want 10. If you're having 10% Blue Jay stacks, maybe you may want to make sure that you have him in at least 2 of the 10. You're right, 2 out of the 10. So put in the minimum and say 2, and tell the optimizer, like, I want to make sure that I have at least 2. You don't have to make sure that Corey Dickerson's going to be in there because it's going to want to put it in, right? Because it's trying to jam in median fantasy points. That's all it's doing. It doesn't know any better. You change the projection. You don't want as much Corey Dickerson, you can make him 6. There you go. His point per dollar value comes down. That accomplishes the same thing, but of course it changes the projection. So it may affect other lineups. But here you go. Just make sure. That happens sometimes with the Reds, right? A lot of times I'm playing red stacks and I need to up and go. I'm playing a lot. Like yesterday, I think I played like 12% Reds. But on my first run, I was only getting like 3 lineups with Votto in it. So you know what I did? I set his max at 6. I put his minimum at 6. So I'm telling it like, no, I want to make sure to get Votto in more of these lineups and not have all the lineups have Tyler Naquin in it. So that's exactly what happened. In the 12% of lineups I was making with the Reds, Tyler Naquin appeared in all of the stats, all of them, because it had the highest, by far, highest point per dollar value. Now, let's say I don't want that. Let's say he's in 12% of my lineups. He's in all of them are red stacks. And I don't want him in all. maybe 10, right? You make a decision. I want to make sure that maybe not all, maybe in 8. I have 12 red stacks. I want them in half, right? That's 6. You do the math. 12% red stacks. You're making 100 lineups. And they're all 5-3s, so there's no one-offs or anything like that. So you put 6. If that's what you want. If you, I don't want them in 2. You can do it. You can do that, right? Maybe you don't want Tucker Barnhart as the catcher in all these lines, right? You get 10 out of 12 lineups as Tucker Barnhart. Okay, so I would not X them out, accidentally X them out. So you say, oh, I only want them in 4. But you do that after the first run. Like you should, like I'm not pressing the build button and just going. I'm pressing the build button multiple times, iterations of the build. Because we'll see here when we build lineups for this early slate. So like here on this slate today, this early slate. You know how much Sam Hilliard you'd get if you, I mean, look, that Arrieta versus Chichi Gonzalez. Boy, what a bad pitching matchup. Let me refresh because we got Indians lineups in. But like you see here, like look, this point per dollar value, if you're going to play one-offs, it's going to start jamming this stuff in. Hilliard one-offs, Naquin one-offs, Mercado one-offs, Schwindel one-off. I mean, you're going to start getting a lot of these guys as one-offs. And a lot of people will also. That 44% don't. That's projecting. And a lot of people use optimizers wrong, and that's what happens. Oh, I'm gonna pick a couple of teams and then press build, and then I have 60% Sam Hilliard, and then he puts up 3 points, and you go, these projections are bad. This optimizer sucks. Like no, like 44% owned $2,400 Sam Hilliard, like is obviously overowned. He's obvious. I don't have to say anything. I mean, yes, he's the best point per dollar value, but it's baseball. Anything happens in baseball. But for this slate, I'm building 4 lineups. So I'm playing the smaller single entry stuff. I'll still throw it in the large field. So I'm going to be playing more correlative lineups, right? It's a small slate, so you don't have to. It doesn't have to be 5-3. 5-3, 5X, 5-1-1-1, 4-4, 4-3. Just I'm giving the optimizer an opportunity to build any of these types of lineups. But I'm not going to play 3-3, 4X, stuff like that. Right? And then I'm putting in up to 100%, right? I want 10% of everything. Because I'm going to build 100 lineups just to see what's available, right? Unique players 1, just based on the projections that we have, right? I'm assuming I'm going to get a ton of Colorado, Cleveland, right? You could just take a look at the stack projection page and go by point per dollar. We have Cleveland, Colorado, Minnesota. Like if I didn't set the stacks numbers at 10 and just let it do whatever, I just get everything of 1. The goal is so I can compare different stacks to each other. So I just want to look at that. If I put it in as all 100, I'll just get 100% Cleveland. Like, what does that do? I have no lineups to compare the Indians lineups to. So I want to just get, am I going to be playing Met stacks today? Probably not, but I want to see what they look like. What's the best projected and what is their ownership of a Met stack? What does it look like? I could visualize that it's not going to be good enough, but you never know. You have to run it to see. So that's all I'm doing. I'm not doing any other type of work, just to look at lineups. So I'm building 100. I got the stacks all set up. Maybe I also want to do player groups. I'll do this for, let's do player groups. I'll move this over so I can see it on 2 screens. You don't have to do this, but I mean, there is a negative correlation between 2 pitchers in the same game. Am I going to be playing Adrian Sampson? Is not even in the prize pool. I don't even think he's available, so it doesn't even matter. I don't have to worry about that. Please, Zach and Thorpe. Make sure that they're separated. Arrieta and Chichi Gonzalez. Am I even going to get any? Am I going to get any of this? Probably not. But I definitely don't want both. Both course pitchers in the same lineup. Hey, if that wins, God bless you. McGill and DeSclafani. And Berrios and Gray. We have to worry about the rain potential in that game. But we'll act as if it's fine. Okay? Bring this back over here. And now I'm just going to build 100 lines. So just going to let it run. Just to see what comes up. Let's look back in the YouTube chat while that happens. Right, Michael Dompier, like it's absolutely right. Individual player scores are much more variant in contests like NBA. In NBA, yeah, because the variance is so much lower. The projection range it's more likely to hit the median than anything else. One swing of a bat is 14 points in MLB. Like one jump shot in NBA is 2 points. So a lineup that's 20 points lower projected at NBA that's a lot to give up, right? That's why you'll find so many more lineups in between the top optimal and like 10 points below. And you can find thousands of lineups, tens of thousands of lineups that are like that. In baseball, you're not. In baseball, one guy projects so much higher than others. Like dude, two swings of a bat is 28 points. So if you're giving up 30 points in projected median projection. Yeah, but then the team gets shut out. The team only puts up 3 runs. Right? One stack is projected for this and one stack is projected for that, but like it's much easier for that to equal out than in basketball, where it's very iterative. You have to score points at a time, at a time, at a time. 2 walks, home run, there you go. 3-run home run, you have all the guys. That's more than 20 points right there. Right? The 2 runs, the walk, you get 4, 18, 26 points right off the bat. Now, some relief pitcher in the 7th inning does it. And that evens yourself out. Like when it could happen so much like that, I don't mind giving up a ton of projection in a lineup. Median projection. It doesn't matter. The median doesn't matter that much. Just a way to relate 2 lineups to one another. But I need to get the ownership lower. I don't want to play 2 lineups of the similar ownership, and one has a 14-point lower median. It's like, no, play the higher median lineup if they're both owned at the same rate. Let's see. Go through the lineup. Let's see. Okay, so we're getting a ton of Molly. Yeah, if you take a look, his projection in the bat is just like way above everyone else's. Like from a point per dollar, like even raw point wise, he's like almost 7 points higher than anything else. Doesn't mean we're gonna play Molly or fade. I think I'm gonna have some couple. I think we're gonna make a Cubs lineup against Molly because look at his owners. This is my natural reaction. If I'm gonna build 4 lineups, this is what I want to do. Just my natural exploitive way. I want to build 1 Cubs lineup, 1 Nationals lineup, and 1 Mets lineup. Because if these are going to be the 3 highest owned pitchers, I'm just going to bet one of them fails. I don't know which one, but one of them does. And when they fail, it takes down like half the lineups of the contest, right? So that to me, that's the easiest way to play. Oh yeah, Toronto may be under-owned, but they're facing a 3% owned pitcher. San Francisco may be under-owned. 24%, okay. McGill will be owned. Plesac will be owned, but Minnesota is going to be mega owned. Right? Cleveland's going to be mega owned. Maybe I'm playing Thorpe in a lineup, a $5,800 Thorpe in a lineup because Cleveland is going to be over-owned. And when Cleveland fails, it'll take down a whole bunch of lineups with them. So I also know like Coors will be popular. I think Coors plus Cleveland, that type of lineup, more likely. But I'm probably not taking Arrieta or Chichi Gonzalez. But I just want to look at the lineups. So here we go. I have 100 lineups. I have all different stacks. I have 89% Molly. Okay, so the best Molly lineup. Obviously, these are way owned. Like, I would never play. This is just way too much ownership. Right, because this is going to be the chalk. Like, look at this lineup. It's a Coors 5-3, DeSclafani, Molly. Like, don't play these lineups. Like, this is a lineup that I will never play. Just too in a GPP. This is nearly a cash game lineup that's stacked. Yeah, but they project the best. Yeah, true. So I take a look and you get so many of these types of lineups. But of course, I put it in at 10%. So we're going to start getting, other types of lineups. But the first thing I want to look at is pitching wise. So we have those pitchers, Molly, Berrios, DeSclafani, right? Molly's going to be by far the most owned. These other ones are kind of equal enough. Like they're enough. It's close enough that I can play either or. But Molly's going to be but he's also 7 points projected higher. So I want to look at the best non-Molly lineup. There's no really good way of doing this. because there's 89 lineups there, so there's 11 lineups without Molly. So we're looking for the first one. We'll probably have to scroll a bunch. Scroll a bunch for the first non-Molly lineup. Let's keep on going. It's probably gonna take a while. Molly, 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 Molly. This is why I should have done like 50 lineups, right? Molly, 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 Molly. But they're probably going to be towards the bottom, but who knows? There may be one, stuck in here. Is it really going to be the first 89 lineups and then something else? Really? It may be. You're right, because it's a 7-point difference in projection. So this may be. It may not be until the 90th lineup. Yeah, it makes sense. You're going to be giving up projection, too much projection. Or I don't know. Let's see. So you go all the way down to Molly, 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 Molly. Okay, Barrios DeSclafani. Okay, with Chicago, because obviously you'd stack against Molly, right? And then you have Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, and Connor Joe as a 1-0. And you're still playing 2 fairly owned pitchers, but you're stacking against. This is 105, 57, 201. Okay, so let's save that. Right, you could also play not much projection difference, and it's just different players, right? Oh, Tatis is outfield eligible now. Ooh, so you're playing McMahon, Story, and so you're playing both shortstops. And you're not playing Connor Joe. You're playing Schwindel, Bodie, Ortega, Happ. 49-8. This is 49-2. Maybe I like this better as a Chicago stack. 136. Here's one that's at 136. That's 201. What does this 136 one look like? Okay, Machado with Josiah Gray against Toronto. Who there may be weather issues there, so maybe I don't want to play that. So yeah, Josiah Gray just knocks out a lot of this ownership. But I can see the construction, right? You're stacking against Molly, playing a 5-man Colorado, and it projects at like 105 median. And the top one is 124, right? That's a 19-point difference, which isn't all that much when you're getting the relative value of when Molly fails, you're getting more points. So I actually don't mind an 18-point drop in median, especially half the ownership, more than half the ownership, and you're stacking against. He may not even be 57. Molly may be 80%. I mean, who knows? In the smaller field stuff, we're projecting him for 57% in just the normal GPPs. He could be 70 plus in the small field, so maybe even better. So I'm looking at those Cubs stacks. Okay, so I looked at that. Now we got Barrios and DeSclafani. Obviously, that Toronto-Washington game, I mean, this weather, a very good chance for rain in Washington today, but right now models zip one line through pregame and hold a second line just north. I'll kind of bite on that and keep it at just yellow in case that second line pops closer. We'll leave it a chance for a delay and reevaluate closer to first pitch. Okay. So, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. Let's go back to this. So Barrios. So we'd be playing Washington. So Washington and the Mets. Okay, so let's take a look at what the best Washington stack is. Let's see. We go to stack summary here. Now it's easy. I'm not looking for a pitcher. Teams used in whatever in 4+ stacks. So Nationals. Here we go. 110, 9, 168. And you're probably playing cores in the other parts of the lineup. And you're playing Molly, right? So you're playing Molly DeSclafani, Trey Barrera if he's in the lineup, right? We don't have these lineups. Trey Barrera, Bell, Hampson, Kaiboom, Story. Okay. We have one at 191. Okay, I don't like that as much. 168, 191, 180, 191, 178, 185. Looks okay. 146. Get Blackman in there, Josiah Gray. Maybe I play a Josiah Gray lineup because he's correlated with the Nationals, maybe. 3% owned against Toronto. That's always scary. People aren't going to want to play Josiah Gray against. Is Molly in that lineup also? Let's just make sure. Yeah, Molly's in this lineup. Maybe I want to play this lineup. Hampson, Tatis, Blackman, Soto, Robles, Kaiboom, Bell, Barrera. I'll save that. 146. I'll save the top one also. Just to look. Okay, that isn't that bad. And then we're looking at the Mets against DeSclafani, who's also going to be owned. Here's a Lewis Thorpe lineup. Oh, there we go. 174. Okay, I don't mind that. Here's one that's a little bit low, one a little bit lower projected, but yeah, because of Gray's in here. Do I want to play Gray or do I want to play Thorpe against Cleveland? Let me just take a look at the bat pitch. What do we have in Thorpe's projected pitch count for the bat? Let's see, projected pitch count. Where's Thorpe? We have Gray. Oh, Gray's 76. Where's Thorpe? 82. Should I play Thorpe? Gray, I mean, 76 pitches is kind of low for Gray, especially against Toronto if he doesn't do well. So maybe Thorpe is better. And if Cleveland's going to be more owned than Toronto, maybe Thorpe is better. I think it's close. I thought Thorpe would have a lower projected pitch count than Gray. Apparently not. So maybe this lineup, maybe I prefer this lineup. At San Diego, you go 5-3. McCann, Alonso, McNeil, Nimmo, Conforto. Right, you got the lefties, right, especially against DeSclafani, and you get the Padres against Chichi. Or you could do this if you want. Well, let's save that. Any other? Let's see, 124. Right, it's going to be similar types of lineups. Berrios in this lineup, 190, 127. This isn't bad. Actually has La Stella in it. Okay, so you're looking at that. Okay, so we got some of those lineups. And then let's take a look at, let's see, if you're going to play Molly and the Padres. So I think the Padres are going to be less owned than the Rockies. How about Cincinnati? There's not much going on. I mean, outside of Coors, the Reds against Adrian Sampson, like based on this point per dollar value, like we can get, no one's going to play them. I mean, no one. People will. Let's take a look at a red stack. Like these are really high variance lineups. Remember, these lineups are not going to just cash. I'm looking to win the whole thing. It's like, oh, you're going to fade Coors? Oh, you're going to play lineups against the top owned? Yes. I'm only playing 4 lineups. If I was playing 150 lineups, I would have plenty of the other types of lineups. But that's what people think. They think the opposite. Oh, I only have 3 lineups, so I have to play the safest ones. No, that's the worst strategy. You only have a couple of lineups, so you want to increase your expected value as much as possible. If you're playing within your bankroll means, if you play 3 lineups, play the 3 risky lineups. Play 100 lineups. You don't want to play 100 risky lineups. You can play 50 and then 50 that are a little bit safe, or a little bit still good, not absurdly safe. People would look at this and go, I can't believe you. You're playing 4 lineups and you're just stacking against the top one pitch. Yes, you're right. And you know what? 90% of the time I lose. Okay, that's fine. But when I win, I have a shot at like $50,000 or whatever, small field, $10,000 or whatever the hell it is. So let's take a look at Cincinnati. DeSclafani, Molly, 245. Still, you obviously got San Diego in here. 206. A little bit less ownership because there's Gray in there. Maybe I don't want to play Gray. Mustakis, Votto, India, Barrero, the 2K guy. Is he in? Is this pinch hit risk? I mean, this may be pinch hit risk. Reds, Mustakis, Aquino, Naquin, Barrero. Barrero shortstop? Is that shortstop? Is he outfield shortstop? Is that the reason? Oh, Farmer's not it. Let's take a look back here. Got Votto, India. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of Jose Barrero. 241, 206, 206 looks the best. 202. Still because I need to have Gray in there. And I'm getting all this Padres stuff. 251, 202. Got Grissom in there. Got Tommy Pham in this one. 191. Just looking through what the 10 that they show up. Maybe this 206 one is the best. Maybe. I don't know. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. Ugh. So I'm missing on Moustakas. Maybe I want to play Moustakas. 4,600. Which one is the Moustakas lineup? Yeah, here's a one. I don't mind this. What's wrong with this? I don't care that it's 241. Barrero 567, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have Caratini, Machado, Tatis, which are chalky. DeSclafani, Molly, which is chalky. But the Reds are going to be much less on 0%. I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll see. I'll save that. But this is what I do. I'm just looking through a lot. Like now, you can make if you know that you're not going to play any of a team, then don't make those lineups, right? So even though I'm building single entry, I'm going to be putting them in by hand. Right? I don't need to upload this via CSV. It's 4 lineups. You could use lineup HQ to hand build your lineups and put different things. Maybe you don't want to play. Maybe you're like, there's no chance. Like if you say I don't want to play Tyler Mahle in a lot of lineups, then just X them out and then see what the lineups look like from there. You can do all the research you want. I want to build 20 lineups that look like this. Okay, take a look at it. And then go, okay, let me see which ones. Okay, I'm going to save this one and this one, and then you move it. I'm going to build 20 of this type of line. And you look and you go, okay, and then you start comparing. Then you go into your save lineups and you start comparing them to one another. And if you're building 3 lineups, you could have 20 lineups saved through all of your iterations of like, I'm going to go see what this looks like, what that looked like, what this looked like. And then you pick 3. Then you think, okay, I'm going to play this one, this one, this one, and then you go. So you don't have to use lineup HQ. Just, I'm going to build 100 lineups. It's only used for that purpose. It can be used for research. It's much easier to do it this way than just to have go on your phone and just start tapping on things. You don't get these figures next to you. You don't get to see, didn't realize I could play this with that and that with this, right? I tried to make, I looked at these stacks. All right, I'm building all these. I said to lineup HQ, it can build whatever it wants here, and it continues to build 5-3 lineups, right? Or 5-2-1 or something like that. It's not building, when it built the 5-man, it built the 5-man Cubs. It didn't go 4-man Cubs and 3 Padres and 1 Rocky. Like, no, it actually preferred the 5-man Cubs from a projection standpoint than 4-3 because the Cubs are so cheap. So you're able to just jam everything in. So you could do that using lineup HQ. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Let's see. Go through the YouTube chat. Any last questions before we get out of here? Travis Daniels, do you use running exposure? You can. All that does is make it so that your CSV is a little bit more diverse. Doesn't really do anything else. Like it's still going to give you X amount of percent in X amount of lineups, 100 lineups. Just it may not be all in a row, right? You go, I want Molly in 50% of my lineups, right? If you don't put running exposure and you build 100 lineups, most likely the first 50 are going to be Mollies, are going to be all Molly lineups, and then it's going to be the next 50 are going to be no Molly lineups. If you use running exposure, that's the lineup generation is most likely to be Molly lineup, not Molly lineup, Molly lineup, not Molly lineup, Molly lineup, not Molly lineup. So if you're doing something where all you're doing is cutting and pasting in the order created and plugging it into your CSV and you're playing multiple different types of contests, like maybe, I'm playing 20 lineups into the large field $18 contest, but I'm also playing the 20 max $4 contest and I have different lineups for them. So you have a CSV with 40 spots in it. If you didn't use running exposure percentages, it's quite likely that this contest, 20 lineups have all the Molly lineups, and this contest, 20 lineups have none of the Molly lineups. So you have so basically, like if Molly gets hit, like all of these contest lineups are done, and like, I won the 20 max instead of winning the big contest. But if you put running exposure percentages, it's more likely Molly, not Molly, Molly, not, and then when you cut and paste, you get 10 Molly lineups into each and 10 non-Molly lineups. That's what running exposure does. Okay, Michael Dompian, soft large field contest. Would you expect the Minnesota, Cleveland, Cincinnati to be overrun because the lineups are out only those teams? Well, in the Cubs, but I don't expect ownership there. I guess a little. I don't think that much. I think Coors is going to be that's the chalk. Will there be a tick up? Maybe, but I don't think so. Enough that I care. Let's see. Michael Dompia says it seems way too easy to fit pretty good pitchers stacks the Coors game. Exactly, which is what's going to be done. Hence, the lineups that I'm looking at are ones that don't do that. But it's not like I'm fading, right? I'm playing cores, but not as part of a 5-man. I'm playing Rockies and Padres guys, not. And then the stack is going to be against the chalk pitchers, rather than do it the other way around. Some people, you could do it that you play the chalk pitchers and then like, oh, no one's playing Toronto, so I'm going to play Espen. I'm going to play cheap bottom of the order. That's what people are going to try to do. So they don't. So they get to play the 2 best pitchers and the best stack, but the ownership's going to be all over. It's going to be high. So I'm not avoiding cores. Just it's not going to be the core piece of my lineup. I don't want my lineups to look like. I want it so that these batters in that game do well, but the game in and of itself, it's a 6-4 game, right? And then one of these chalk pitchers just get blown up. Molly, the Cubs score 8 runs against Molly. And there you go. And I have 5. Done. And although and 60% of the lineups have -6 in them. Which makes it even better. That's what I'm doing. That's exploiting the field. I'm looking at what's the easiest path to first place. This is the easiest path to first place. It's not going to happen as often, but that's not your goal in DFS. Your goal is not to build lineups that are the most probable. Your goal is to build the lineups that are the most profitable in the long term. This doesn't work today. You know what I do? I try to get tomorrow, right? I do it the next day. 1 or 2 times a year, I win a lot of money. I win first place. And it makes up for all those other times, and then you're wildly profitable after that. It's a mindset shift. That's about not predicting outcomes. Oh yeah, the most likely thing is DeSclafani plus Molly plus cores. Like that's the most probable. It's the hardest to win the most amount of money doing. It's hardest to be profitable doing it that way. You cash. Oh, great! I turned my $18 into $36. Oh. In the long term, that's not where the money is. The money is at top. Okay. So hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Give me those thummy thumbs. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got grinders. We got a lot of stuff today, right? We got the Saltcast. We got the OGs, sports betting with Beer Maker and Chop and Noto. We got Grinders Live, obviously, later for the MLB slate. We got Crunch Time for premium members. And the NFL schedule should come out at some point. We got a bunch of stuff coming up for NFL. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be a lot of stuff. So subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to RotoGrinders. If you're a premium member, I'm always in the Discord. So if you're a premium member, you get access to that. And you can ask me stuff, there also. But I'm always available, you see. You show up. If you listen on the podcast version of this, which you can download, like, you're not here live. And if I didn't talk about something that you wanted to talk about, you have to show up. Right? People ask questions, I answer them, right? We go over review, and that's what I do. So sometimes the show's, oh, you didn't mention anything about today's slate. Well, there were people in chat that needed to be serviced, and I serviced them. So that's what I did. So give me those thumbs up, and I will see you again, as you'll always see me, Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.